it's a cloud.
Yeah.
So it's validating that your stuff is on the blockchain.
So it's probably stored in your computer then.
It's stored on every computer that's used on the
Whoa.
blockchain. So
wow, okay.
that's where the world supercomputer thing comes in. It's like when you put it one place, you put it all places. One thing makes up the one part of the whole. So you're connecting to the whole of the internet when you log on to the internet. You're like a drop of water that gets dropped into the ocean. And so you're now the whole ocean. You have access. you are part of everything. And that's what I meant earlier about the mycelium thing, like how birds move together in like these weird formations, like they're a hive mind. That's essentially what a blockchain is. It's a hive mind where if you connect to the hive mind, you are the whole hive mind. You have all of the information in front of you.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Yo, what's up? This is Boho Hobo, and we welcome you all back to Bindlism, a philosophy to a self-sufficient lifestyle. The purpose of Bindlism is to unlock authentic perspective as we create a community of like-minded individuals who are living a self-sufficient lifestyle. A self-sufficient lifestyle is one in which a human being is activating their self-awareness to curate an authentic life that keeps them sustained mentally, emotionally, and physically in their adventure towards self-fulfillment. Boho Hobo's mission is to support a community that fosters this culture. We will be interviewing a diverse group of people, including artists, creatives, entrepreneurs, and independent thinkers to make this happen. Please join us in this journey as we explore the world and broaden our horizons with discoveries of new perspective. Thank you to everyone who is taking the time to stop by on your journey to give us a listen. We hope you enjoy, and as always, explore endlessly.
First off, thanks for joining me today.
Yes.
Talk about crypto.
Crypto.
We're going to talk about all things crypto, Bitcoin, Cardano, Ethereum, Polkadot, and
NFTs.
speculate about the future, where all this shit's headed towards.
Yep.
There's a lot on the agenda today,
Yes.
but we'll see where it goes.
A lot of things going on in the world here, in the crypto world.
Yeah, and we just had a recent little upswing to the 40,000 mark from 30,000 with Bitcoin.
Everybody was calling for a bear market the last few weeks. People thought that it was going to crash even farther down, but potentially the institutions and all the big money whales finally got back in and stopped manipulating as much, and like the sentiment for like Bitcoin and like crypto being like from a sell, like negative sentiment to a positive, like it's being adopted a bit bull.
And Elon Musk, he was talking more about being in support with Bitcoin.
Yep.
It being more environmentally friendly than what he thought.
And that's huge.
They got like that whole like council thing set up now.
Oh, what council?
Yeah, it's with Michael Saylor. They met up and they formed a committee that's about like crypto environmentalism with Bitcoin. Yeah,
that's pretty interesting.
And they got like Mara there, Riot, all the big name mining companies. So they're just trying to push for more of the legal stuff around using renewable energy with it.
Right.
So.
Right. And that was the number one thing why Elon decided to have Tesla not buy any more Bitcoin, was because of the environmental factors, because of China and their taking up most of the mining and the energy. And when China banned crypto like last month, all of the miners in China had to pick up and relocate. And now that they've relocated, they're starting to use better renewable energy and not like computers that are like, dipping carbon monoxide out into the air, being on so long. So that's probably why Elon has changed his mind, or at least changing his mind on it, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and to kind of like rewind a little bit, I just want to get your like take on how you first started getting into crypto.
Yeah.
And like how that journey's been.
Mm-hmm.
Like when was the first like how long ago did you first hear about it?
I heard about it back in like 2017 when it was just like Bitcoin. There was no real anything taking off at that point. So I was just like hearing about cryptocurrency and how it's decentralized from a central government. But I didn't really dive any deeper into it than that. But I actually really started to get into it this year around February is when I bought my first coin, which was Ethereum. I bought one full Ethereum, not really knowing much about it or what I was doing, just that it was starting to take off. And after I bought it, I started to really dive into like why Ethereum was different than Bitcoin, like what makes it special, like how does the transactions make it decentralized, and like how that whole process works. So really this year was the year that I fully got into it.
And like what importance do you see out of blockchain in general?
I mainly see confidential verifiable like proof of something on the blockchain. Basically anybody in the world could look up any information. Like you could put a marriage certificate on the blockchain, and anybody that would want to look up that, instead of going through like banks and lawyers and all these third parties that take time to get these documents to you, you're able to look at it instantly and know it's verified. So just the fact that it can prove almost anything. Like if you have a certain amount of money in your account, it'll prove that you have that amount of money.
And Ethereum does all that?
Yes, all blockchains do that. That's the decentralized aspect of it. It's because every account is given like a secret phrase called a wallet ID, and everybody it's like a username, and everybody has a wallet ID, a public one, and then there's your private wallet ID, which is confidential to you, and that's how you like transfer between wallets that you own.
So what led you to being more bullish about Ethereum rather than Bitcoin? Like what drew you to Ethereum?
What drew me to Ethereum? Pretty much that Ethereum is able to have things built on it, like software applications. Like it's a layer 2 solution, which layer 1 is basically strictly transactions. Like Bitcoin, like you can buy things with it. Like that was the number one use case of it, was a digital currency that people could just use to buy things with. Layer 2 solution is like you can build software on top of the blockchain, because the blockchain is really just a giant world computer. It's a world supercomputer, like the internet, where everybody that uses it makes it up. So if nobody's using it, it's essentially useless. It's like the internet. Like the internet truly like doesn't technically exist until we've all used it and are connecting with each other. So we're the nodes, as they say, that are making the entire system up. So basically with that, each computer that that makes up a node, like your phone, my phone, everybody that uses Ethereum, their phone is contributing to the giant world supercomputer. So like your phone has an application on it, so can this giant world supercomputer. So everybody's computer power is all like combining into the one giant world supercomputer, and you could build software applications on top of that, like like what we see with all these alternate coins that aren't Ethereum. And that's how NFTs are able to be made, and that's how a lot of these crazy crypto coins are made, pretty much.
And to take a step back, just to see like how all this is playing out.
Yeah.
And also I ended up watching Ready Player One the other day. And so do you see this all headed towards a VR world of some sort, where we're all interconnected with one another with headsets, or like a Neuralink of some sort?
Yeah, I think it's only natural. Last night I was actually watching this thing called Fantastic Fungi. And it's just very natural for us to have discovered like the internet and wanting to connect with each other and move it like a giant swarm of birds moves together. They just know, like they're all just linked up together and they move as one. So it's a natural thing that happens in the universe that we would want to connect with each other and like share information and basically become a giant organism like the giant world supercomputer. But Fantastic Fungi is like the mycelium is like underneath us at all times, and they connect trees with each other that share nutrients, and it stores carbon that the leaves take in and stores it underground. So
you're kind of using the metaphor that you think like how nature is created or like functioning is in a sense like analogous to how the supercomputers function.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that with that, we are moving into with the blockchain is just one aspect of it, but we also have VR headsets, and VR headsets are basically just video games that you can cover your eyes with that tricks your brain into thinking that you're in that place. But we'll be able to merge the blockchain with VR, and Facebook has like announced that they're making the metaverse, which is in Ready Player One, which is basically just a giant shared video game that everybody can play or everybody is a part of. So when you log on to the VR, like when you put on your VR headset, you're automatically in the world connecting with all these other people that are walking around playing the game as you are. So Facebook is this like announcing that they're building the metaverse, or they're moving into becoming a metaverse company, which they're going to be less of a social media company and more of a metaverse company, which they're the first to do this. So
when you're saying like metaverse, what exactly does that mean?
The metaverse is essentially the game that everybody shares. It's the world that they're in. It's it's just a shared universe. That's why they call it the metaverse.
Meta as being like multiple, like universal.
Yeah,
like
just like yeah, I'm not sure
that makes sense
the exact definition, but it's essentially, if anybody's seen Ready Player One, you're on the right track with what a metaverse is. Like, it's essentially a dumbed down version of it is just that it's a giant shared video game.
Do you think it'll be like one connected video game, or like multiple sort of parallel universes like represented by each individual video game? Sort of like how we have like PlayStation, you have all these discs that have different worlds, so to speak. Or do you think it'll all be connected as one universe?
It would be connected as one universe, but like, I don't know if you ever played Kingdom Hearts. In Kingdom Hearts, you travel to the different worlds, like, you know, like Cinderella's universe, or like, you know, Alice in Wonderland. Like, you go to the different worlds. And so that's essentially what the metaverse is. Like, the whole where all these worlds are within, that is the metaverse. And each individual world is like the different companies or different games that could be played within the metaverse. So like we could go.
So the internet itself is the metaverse.
Yes,
in a sense.
And then all of the things within that you can do is like like the shared games that you can all play with each other.
Sort of like you go on to Google Chrome and like that's your portal into the metaverse, let's say, but then you can search individual websites, and those are like worlds within the entire internet browser of sort.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Okay, that's a big idea.
It is a big idea, and it's just being developed like every day. Facebook is the one leading it, which.
Why do you think they're leading it, though?
I was reading an article that was basically saying that they're just in the best position to create it because they own Instagram, they own the VR headset Oculus, they own WhatsApp, they own Facebook. So they're collecting on like data on a lot of people already that they need to build the metaverse. Like VR headsets track eye movement, and so they're already having the sensory input from all these people. Like, it's just data. Like, it's whatever you do in the game, it's being fed to some kind of server where they're learning how you use the game, and so they can make the game better. Which, at the same time, that is a little weird, in my opinion, just collecting data on people. But that's a different topic, I feel like.
Okay, so that leads us into, like, why you might think blockchain is important in all of this. Like, why isn't it the case that we already have something like this? If we already have VR headsets and, like, we're able to connect to the internet, like, why is it that we need blockchain for all of this? Have you looked into any of that?
Yeah. So what makes it good for the blockchain in the metaverse is that all the individual items or like gear that you wear in the game, or like weapons that you obtain, you will actually own those weapons because they'll be on the blockchain. So you'll have a little certificate proving that you've owned this
proof
hat.
Of stake? Or no, like an NFT.
Basically an NFT. Just like you own the digital copy of that weapon or that item, and it just proves that you are the owner of it and nobody else is the owner of that one. So you own that, and you could sell that at any time to other players, or so like if you bought a digital piece of art at a digital art museum and you go to your VR house where you're like, because everybody has their own little home, you could put your NFTs like on your walls, or like wear your NFTs in the metaverse. So it's not like it's just a digital picture anymore that you have on your phone. It's like, yeah, it is that, because you could use that to sell it for cryptos and exchange it for real money. But
it proves ownership.
It proves the ownership that you own it, and then when you bring it into the VR world, it's like you literally are holding it. Yeah.
It's almost better than in reality, because with reality, there's nothing that's signature saying that this, let's say, audio setup for podcasting that we have here is mine.
Yeah.
Someone could come over and steal it, but because of the NFT function, like, someone could try to steal it, but
or make a copy of it.
But everyone would still know that it was mine.
That it was
to
yours.
Begin with.
Yeah, that's why it's a good like with NFTs, it's a good analogy when you think about the Mona Lisa. Like, how many copies and how many ripoffs has there been of the Mona Lisa? But there's only one Mona Lisa. You know what I mean? So it's like, we'll know that it's the original. But
without some artist or some centralized force telling us that this is the real copy.
Yeah,
the real piece.
Exactly. And you won't need to go through a centralized authority that is also inputting all of the data that you... Because when you send money through a bank, which almost every transaction gets sent through a bank at some point, those go, to like China. There's like banks in China. Like, it hits different poles across the world before it actually gets to your other bank account. It's like when I send you...
It's not a direct transaction.
It's not a direct me to you.
Right.
So when I send you $10, it's going through my bank to like 4 other banks, who knows where, and then finally back to your bank where you get the money.
Okay.
So with
and
blockchain,
it's like, aren't they using like credit of some sort?
Yes.
Where it's like, at least this is from my research with Bitcoin, like why Bitcoin's a better alternative, or any digital currency for that matter. But like with a bank, they send you access the transaction by like saying, oh, I want to send money to Dirk through Venmo, or let's say, and then like the bank makes an issuance or some sort. So it's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's basically like a thing of credit saying that that transaction went through until the bank can actually fulfill it. So that's why we have like the ACH, the something clearinghouse. So the clearinghouse has to wait until they can actually make that process from the bank, but they'll make that credit to someone else. So then they can get that money instantly.
Yes.
Until the bank fulfills that order, so to speak. So, whereas with crypto, it's like I'm directly transacting that currency over to you.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
It's just a quicker way of processing. I don't know, like, 100% if that's correct.
Yeah,
but
it's pretty complicated. Banks also do this other thing called fractional reserve banking. I don't know if you know anything about that. But basically, when you deposit $100 into a bank, they when on your phone, you look at your bank account on your phone and you have it says $100 in there. But technically, there's not $100 in there. There's just the IOU.
Oh, that's what it's called. Yeah. IOU.
So it's basically they show you that you have $100 in your account, but they'll turn around and take that $100 and they'll take a fraction of it. Like, let's say now you have access to $98 of it. That other fraction, that $2, they turn around and they give that to somebody else, and they say to them that they have also $100. So like, they just keep going from person to person and creating the illusion of them all having this money, but the bank doesn't technically have all that money. It's just one person's money is being used to make it seem like there's a lot more money that the bank has. Basically, if everybody tried to pull out that $100 at the same time, the bank wouldn't have all the money because they're fractionally dividing it between people. And when you withdraw money, they're taking it from those other people. But it still shows in their account that they have it until they then want to withdraw it.
So it's their way of like borrowing from other people's money to stay in power.
Basically, it's not good. So in a way, it creates money that's not technically there.
Right.
So people think that there's more money than there really is. So I don't know if you remember the Great Depression, but like when there was a huge like stock market crash, everybody wants to go withdraw money from the banks, but the banks couldn't do it because of this. Like, they didn't have enough of the money available to give people what they wanted that they said that they had. So the banks are just basically IOUing you the money that you put into your account. So the money, when you look at your phone, and that $100 basically is just a number. It really technically isn't there until you want to withdraw it. It's just fake.
And then they have to find someone else that has the money to give to you.
One of the other person they've basically done this to, because this is how banks work. This is what all banks do. This is why centralized banks are not good. We don't. We also don't know how much, like, money is in circulation. Like, we have zero idea how much printed money there is. But with Bitcoin, we know that there's 10,000 coins. We know where each coin has been sent. We know the transaction history of each coin. We can follow it. We can see which wallets own the most Bitcoin. We cannot do any of that with a centralized bank. Banks can, but we can't access that information through a bank. They won't give it to us.
Right.
With blockchain, it's freely available to every person who wants to look at it. Right now, I could pull it up on a website. It's called Etherscan. You could pull it up. You could find Elon Musk's wallet.
Oh, really?
And you could see how much he has in circulation. You can then...
But you don't know it's his, right?
You don't, but you can figure it out in certain ways. You can kind of like guess in a way. You'll never know for sure, but I'm not good at that. Like, I don't do this, but I know that people have been like able to figure out whose wallet is whose just by information that they post or like times that they post.
Oh, true.
So,
interesting. So, do you think that we'll see the central banks collapsing of some sort? So, like, I'm more so in the Bitcoin community than Ethereum, as far as like the information that I'm getting, and a lot of people think that Bitcoin solves the purpose of a central bank. Bitcoin solves the purpose of a central bank, and so it solves it better than banks do, in the sense of you're able to store value, store wealth, while also make transactions with one another. Do you think that the technology in place has the possibility to disrupt the banking industry?
Yes. As long as it gets adopted. it will
basically. Do you think we'll see that in our lifetime?
Yes, I think in the next few years, as crypto becomes more widely recognized and like people start seeing the opportunities that can be made through the blockchain, central banks will not have as much power because less people will be needing to use the bank, because the only reason everybody uses a central bank is because that's the only system in place. There has never been a digital decentralized version of the bank, and for good reason, because the central banks wanted to stay in power and not give up any of that. So as we get farther in development, I can definitely see Bitcoin, Ethereum, any cryptocurrency could become widely adopted and be the number one use of, like, we'll basically most likely get rid of the US dollar because inflation is starting to become really bad, because we're just printing thousands and thousands of dollars that aren't really getting, like, they're not going into circulation as fast, and so people won't be able to like use that money, and prices of things will go up. So basically inflation, and the value of the dollar will go down, which will then cause the value of cryptos to go up, because the amount of cryptos that you're able to buy with a dollar will go down. So the cost to buy cryptos will go up as a result of that. So that's why everybody is starting to think that cryptos are a great store of value, because as the US dollar goes down, there's not really much you can do. Your $1,000 in a few years will be like $700 in purchasing power. You know, so people are starting to move it into Bitcoin, which is like digital gold.
Now, do you own any Bitcoin?
I own very little Bitcoin, actually. Okay. I move my stuff into things that I think are going to rise in price over a short amount of time. I would be long on Bitcoin, like a long-term investor. But that's my end goal, is once I make enough profits and once I own enough other coins, you're able to swap coins into other coins. My end goal is to swap everything back into Bitcoin and just hold that and not touch it, because Bitcoin moves very slow. Like, it's in comparison to all the other coins. Like, Bitcoin in the last few months, it's moved from like 30 to 60,000, which is a lot if you have $30,000 or $60,000. Like, if you had one Bitcoin at $30,000 and it goes to 60, that's obviously a lot of money. Like, that's double your money. But if you only put in about $1,000 at 30,000 and it goes to 60,000, you're now only at $2,000 profits. So it's really like your ability to invest and get a better return on investment is a lot lower with Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is more safe, as in it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Like, it will be there as a store of value.
And it's not going to tank as hard.
It's not going to tank as hard. It might not ever tank. It might just keep going to 100,000. Some people speculate that it'll go to like $1 million per Bitcoin. It's truly a speculation game, but that's where all the utilities and the use cases come in, because there will be some adopted coin like Cardano, Ethereum, Bitcoin. Any one of them could be the standard, you know, the Google of payments. And like that when that happens, that coin will be the number one used cryptocurrency.
Okay, so last time we talked about this, you said you were mainly in Cardano.
Yes.
You switched over. Did you switch from like first you were Ethereum? Because I remember like the progression of this, where like the very first time you were talking, you were really bullish into Ethereum, and then the second time you were like, "Oh, I'm in Cardano."
Yeah.
Like, what happened with that switch?
Well, I just started doing more research.
Okay.
More and more research. I still am super bullish on Ethereum, mainly because it's out. Cardano is technically not a working product right now. It will be I think it's next month that they're releasing it in August. I think August 30th is when the Goguen net releases, which is when the smart contracts will be able to get deployed so people can actually start making transactions and using Cardano as a payment source, like, so I could send you money on the Cardano blockchain.
Okay.
But right now it's not that, but Ethereum is. And Ethereum is really good for NFTs right now. Like, it's the number one thing to make NFTs on. So I'm bullish on both, honestly, but I own the most of Cardano because I can see Cardano being better than Ethereum. Like, it will do everything that Ethereum does and more, because it is a proof of stake cryptocurrency, and Ethereum is a proof of work, which is a pretty complicated thing to explain, but I'll try to explain what that is.
Yeah, and then they were also saying how Ethereum is moving over to proof of stake.
Yes, but they're moving over, but they've already been using a proof of work, so it's harder for them to make the switch.
Oh, okay.
Because they have to go back and they have to redo a lot of things to make it work. Whereas Cardano, they started making it proof of stake. So they've done it right from the ground up. Like, they don't have to go back and fix things later.
Like, better fundamentals.
Yeah, they don't have to go back and start from the bottom and fix certain things. Whereas Ethereum, like, if they want to make a change, they basically have to change everything before that and then everything on top of that. So proof of work is essentially how transactions are validated on the blockchain. So to make it simple, a bank uses a ledger to show when I send you money, when I send you $10, on a bank's ledger, which is just a sheet of transactions, that's all it is. It'll show that I sent you $10, and so $10 from my account will go to your account, and so I will have $10 less, and you will have $10 more in your account, and it'll prove that on a ledger. So what blockchain essentially is a ledger of transactions called a block, and it gets put those are just strings of ledgers, like transactions, and they get strung together to other blocks that are also just, ledgers, and they chain them together, and that's called a blockchain.
Okay.
And so it's just a way for everybody to see the transactions on a ledger. So you need to verify this somehow. Like, there needs to be some kind of way for the system to know that I have $10 less and you have $10 more. So that's where proof of work comes in.
Where they have miners.
So miners basically are using their computer's power, like energy, to validate transactions. Basically, just it's called cryptocurrency because the transaction is encrypted. It's a digital. It's unsolvable. Like, you can't just look at it and see my transaction. You have to digitally
encrypt it,
and another computer has to unencrypt it for the message to be seen.
Oh, okay.
So miners are essentially just solving these cryptographic puzzles, and the computer is solving thousands of just like calculations every second for each transaction that is encrypted. And so when a full ledger or a full block is mined, or all the transactions are validated, showing that the transaction went through, like I sent you money and it proved it, it'll reward the miners by validating this block with a reward, which is their incentive to mine, because they're using their computer's processing power to, validate the transaction. So why would they want to do that if they weren't getting money? You know what I mean? Or it's some form of payment.
Incentive.
Yeah, incentive. Like, you wouldn't. So that's why they're incentivized to mine the transactions, which keep the blockchain working, because they're solving the transactions that people are making.
And so that's why it's called proof of work, because the computers are at work.
Yes.
And you have to have that to be able to keep the system going.
Yes, exactly.
And then the work of the computers is proving that the transactions are going through.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay.
And so
So proof of stake is.
So proof of stake is.
Also, this is such like heady stuff.
Oh, I know.
So like, yeah, it's just a lot to take
It is
in.
a lot to take in. That's why, I mean, I've been researching this for months, trying to just like figure it out. But proof of stake is what Cardano uses, and essentially that gets rid of miners. So now computers aren't solving the puzzles anymore.
Okay.
Proof of stake is everybody that owns the coin stakes their coins. Basically, that means they put their coins into a system that's showing. You're basically declaring, I have 5,000 ADA coins, Cardano coins, and you put it up onto this this app. It's called Yoroi or Daedalus. Those are the two big ones right now. But you put your coins into these mining pools, or like they're called staking pools. And so you put your 5,000 coins into a staking pool, and that is declaring that you have that much crypto, and everybody else that is doing this, it's just showing that every person that owns this certain amount of cryptocurrency is
in the
just,
pool.
Yeah, it's just declaring what everybody has. Like everybody's just saying, so the coins themselves, just putting it up, that will solve the cryptographic puzzles. And you yourself get the incentive bonus of getting payments by putting it up.
So is it the person that like puts their coins initially to create the pool, right? Because it's like I create a pool so that other like stakeholders or whatever can put their coin into the pool.
Yes.
So is it like me being the one that created the pool for everyone else to join? Is it like my computer now that's processing that system to make it work to continue on? This is where it gets confusing.
I know that it takes crypto to keep a pool running. Like I know that staking pools, they generate money themselves. Like they earn money by creating a pool.
Okay.
And all the people that put their money into the pool to help validate the transactions, they get a reward for putting their money up. And I've generated like $53 or 53 coins so far that just by helping to validate transactions. So that one is like it is still a little confusing to me how proof of stake works, because I'm not sure how just declaring your coins solves the puzzle or solves the transaction, but it does. So
it works.
That's something to look into.
Yeah, and also disclaimer for anyone's listening, since this is gonna go public, but just we're still learning. We're still amateurs in all of this. It's just for discussion purposes.
Yeah, this is just everything.
It just spurs on ideas, so then everyone can do their own individual research.
Yes, it's just to get you started.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of
and it's an ongoing process with this, because everything new stuff is coming out all the time with crypto.
It's always changing, and it's always new things are coming out like every day. Like,
and if they change or hard fork other protocols, it's like even the stuff that we once knew gets changed.
Yeah.
And there's constant reiteration. It's crazy. There's so much information.
There really is. And there's so many different coins out there. And there's a lot of different scams too. And that's like, for anybody that isn't into crypto, like this all sounds really great until you learn that it's basically the Wild West out here in the crypto world. Like there's no regulations on like what you can and can't do with crypto. So like people are setting up scams and stealing lots of money from people that, if they're not careful, which there are definitely ways to navigate it safely and to be safe in the crypto world, but scams are like almost everywhere you turn. And if you're not careful, people can take all these coins, and you can't go to the police because they don't really have regulations set up for them to find these people.
That's like the issue too that people argue against why decentralization might be a bad thing. Is because there's no centralized force to like put blame onto to deal and be responsible for.
Yeah.
Like everyone is individually responsible
Yeah,
for everything that happens.
Exactly. You're essentially your own bank when you get into the crypto world. You're not relying on the government or a centralized bank for anything anymore, which it's a double-edged sword. Like, you're right. Like, if something does go wrong, centralized banks can literally track everything and like figure everything out,
or print out more money.
So I truly don't want to rely on them or give them the power of just like owning everything in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to like different belief structures. Like some people, they might want to have full responsibility over everything that happens in their life. Other people might want to put blame on other people.
Yeah.
So like we're in this current situation in our system where like, because we have the government that can kind of like look out for us, so to speak. Well, I don't know if they're actually looking out for us.
Yeah, who knows?
There's distrust with that. But just like if there was something like COVID that happens again, that we could feel comfortable with like, oh, the government's going to handle all this problem and print out more money. So then we can use that to go buy stuff. But like, it's kind of like a cake with a knife in it, where it's like at first in the short term, it's like, oh, they're giving us money. Like, thank you, government. But then like you're saying, over time, it devalues the currency to the point of like, it might just collapse the entire system itself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, basically. So it's pretty interesting how all that works, but we truly won't know how crypto will affect the world until it's massively adopted. So that's kind of where we're at on a day-to-day basis. Is like people are speculating on various coins to see which one will be the one to, take off, because it's moving out of just like finances. Like the blockchain will be able to store,
any
information. Like NFTs specifically are going to be used for like validating ticket sales at concerts. There won't be any more like scam tickets or like scalpers, because you'll have to validate. Like, it validates that you own that ticket to the show. So there won't be any more fake tickets, or let's say, like...
Yeah. So one thing that I research a lot into this, and I think this is kind of what led me into wanting to understand blockchain more and decentralization, was that there's a possibility with this that we could potentially earn a living wage on the internet, be like anywhere in the world, and be able to, I don't know, put on the VR headset and like literally that becomes your day job, where you can be in some virtual world making money and be able to sustain yourself, really.
Yeah.
Do you consider that idea?
Oh, 100%. Well, that's kind of what I mean when we were talking about the metaverse and NFTs, like owning a digital version of a gun or like a wardrobe. If you own the individual pieces, those are now worth, like, you actually own those. Like, you can actually get money for those things.
So it becomes more valuable.
It's more valuable. It's like Pokemon cards. If you have a Charizard right now, those are worth like $30,000. You can trade that for money. So if you have a digital item that you own and somebody wants it, you can trade him Ethereum for it, and then you can swap that into dollars. And now you've traded and made money. You're flipping, like you would flip a car for dollars. You're flipping digital art for dollars. So that's one way people can make a living off of crypto. But there also is this new thing that's coming out. It's called play to earn, where video games or crypto decentralized video games are enabling people to earn crypto by playing the game. So people will pretty soon be able to actually earn a living off of playing video games.
Whoa.
And it's already starting. And they're like, the first one was Axie Infinity, which I don't know much about, but that's just the biggest one.
Axiom?
Axie Infinity.
How do you spell that?
AXIE Infinity. And so that was the first one. It's just like a digital game I think you like grow creatures, or it's like a card game or something. And then there was Crypto Kitties.
Oh, right.
Which I also don't know much about, but I've heard that that's a game as well. And then the newest one I've heard about 2 days ago is called Illuvium, which is the first RPG role-playing game.
Whoa.
Digital or decentralized video game. So you'll actually be able to own the items in the game and trade them, and like you'll actually earn crypto by playing the game itself.
So it'll be kind of like World of Warcraft, where there's actual economy in that world. And like if you earn gold in World of Warcraft, maybe that you could find a way to like transfer that out into real world currency.
Oh yeah, there's no
or
finding
the real
a way.
world will use that currency.
It will use that currency. It will use crypto as the currency.
Mm.
Crypto will be the digital currency in the metaverse. So it's not like you're making a fake.
So you can go on quests and stuff.
So like when you play a video game now, like World of Warcraft, the gold that you're in the game is just used for the gold that's used in the game, or like the item, like what you can buy in the game. But if the currency in that game was decentralized and like you actually own pieces of the gear, now what you used in the game to buy that gear could also be used to sell for real dollars. So you can actually make a real value out of playing the game and being really good at the game and earning all the highest rewards in the game. Now there's a value incentive to actually do that instead of just
playing
being a nerd and playing a game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of where it's going right now with earning a living off of it. People are also earning a living off of like yield farming, which is basically just like owning a certain amount of a coin and earning like an interest just by owning the coin. It's like
a dividend.
Like a dividend, basically. Like I know that
or like you're letting someone else use your coin, so someone can kind of like, it's kind of like lending and borrowing.
Yeah, it is basically that.
And they pay like an interest on the loan that they take out.
Yes, so you're loaning out your coins, and your incentive to do that is like you're earning an interest every month by how much you've lent out. And so people are earning a good return on investment just from that. But the con to that is like you don't have access to your coins, and there's like a 5 or 6 day wait if you.
Oh, you have to hold.
You have to hold it. You have to hodl it. There's like a 5 to 6 day wait if you decide like, oh, I want my coins back. Like you can't just get them back immediately.
Okay.
You gotta wait, and then you'll have access to your coins again. Because the whole thing is like, if you don't have access to the private key, which the private key is just like a series of words, like 24 different words that you use, because each coin has its own private key that shows that you own that coin. So
is that sort of like the NFTs where it has just digital ownership?
Yeah, it's just what's showing that you own the item. But if it's in like a cold wallet, you own the private key, like you have access to it. But if it's on Coinbase still, like if all your coins are still up on Coinbase technically has the ownership of your private key to that coin until you withdraw it into your wallet. So they technically own the coin if it's still on Coinbase. So like if you get a cold wallet, like I have a Ledger S, which is just it's offline. So an online wallet like Coinbase or like most of these wallets that you see, they can, if they get hacked, they're all online, so if it gets hacked, your coins could potentially be stolen.
Do you have it in cold storage?
I have a lot of my coins into cold storage
using like a nano ledger.
A Ledger Nano, and it connects to your phone, and then you have a digital PIN code that it gives you. And so you validate the transaction with that thing, and it moves it from an online, like, hackable wallet to an offline, encrypted, unhackable wallet. And if you lose this digital device,
you're fucked.
You're not fucked.
No?
No, because you're given these 24 words. It's like a recovery phrase. And as long as you have that, so, like, you should put that on, like, they have like these metal etching things, like you can engrave the words onto a like an unburnable little etching thing, and then put that in a safety deposit box. That'll ensure that your money is forever safe. So if you lose your digital device, which has all your coins on it, like you have your wallet right now, if you lost your wallet, you lost however much however much real money you have in there, like paper money. So, but this, it's like if you have your phrase and lose your device, you can get a new device and then just input that phrase that you stored privately that nobody else has access to into like a safe deposit box, and then you just put that phrase back into your thing and you have access to all your coins again. Okay. So it's very safe.
To kind of like understand your process, do you get it off Coinbase?
I do.
Okay. That's most your main exchange that you go through?
Yes. And if I can't use Coinbase, I swap.
So like a Uniswap?
Uniswap.
Okay.
And because I don't have Binance, because Binance isn't available in New York. A lot of digital exchanges aren't available in New York because New York has a I forget, it's called, you need to have a KYC, which I don't know what that means, but I know that it's very hard to get, and only very few exchanges have it, like Gemini and Coinbase. Okay. And that allows you to buy various coins, but you can't buy all of them. So, like, I don't have...
Because New York State doesn't approve KYC?
Yeah,
or it doesn't have KYC? Or whatever, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't approve KYC easily. Okay. It's very difficult. It has something to do with the stock market being in New York City.
Oh.
And makes sense. Something to do with that. Something to look into. But it just makes it harder for for exchanges to have, like, Dogecoin needs to get a certain amount of, it needed a KYC. Or, it didn't need a KYC. Most states don't.
No. Okay.
New York requires you have a KYC. So Ethereum went through, Gemini got the KYC to have Ethereum on there. Okay. And, but like other states like California and like places around the U.S., they don't need to get a KYC because their state doesn't require it. Basically, it's just like regulations within the state, like legal matters that make it difficult to own a coin.
Okay, and to expand on this, just I want to get your take, but if someone is just storing their coins in Coinbase or on exchange, do you think specifically Coinbase, since that's one of the biggest exchanges out there, do you think that it's safe at this point to just hold your coins in there?
It is relatively safe in that they have insurance. They have over $100 million if they get hacked. Like, you're backed up, like you will get your stuff back. Not all places have that, but Coinbase does get hacked, and like these things do happen. So if you want to navigate and you want to make sure that your money is safe, like 100%, you would want to use a cold wallet, and you would also want to use a VPN every time you decide to use your coins in any way, so that you're hidden, like you're not your geolocation is scrambled, so it looks like you are in like Russia or something like that. That's what VPNs do.
Do you think that'll eventually get built into the system as decentralized, not. What is it? GPS, yeah, decentralized GPS.
I doubt that, because like you need a VPN on your computer just to scramble where you are. I'm not sure if it'll get built in. I'm not sure how that would work. Okay. But typically you want, and just like I have an encrypted email that I use to sign up for digital exchanges, so that my email information isn't like sent out to people. I have an encrypted email, I have the VPN, and I have the cold storage wallet. Those are like the trifecta to navigate the crypto world safely. And also never give out your security phrase that you're given.
Right.
That is like the number one rule. You will never lose money or get scammed as long as you know that. The seed phrase. The seed phrase. As long as you never give that out and you follow those three things, your money is safe.
Okay.
But scammers are very tricky with how they'll make fake websites that you're used to, and they'll have you log in, but they'll be sneaky about it, and they'll have you put in your seed phrase. but they'll make it look identical to the original way that you log into the normal way, the normal application.
Whoa.
But they'll change it very slightly, and if you're not paying attention and you input your seed phrase, you've just logged in using their fake version of like a wallet, and now they have access to your coins, and they'll just send it right out to their wallet and
destroy you.
Basically, yeah, you're screwed. So that is like the safety part of it, but
safety first.
Safety first. Don't want to lose your monies.
Okay, so how long do you think all this will be until it's somewhat established, so that like the general population is gonna be involved with crypto?
I'm as long as Elon and Michael Saylor keep talking about it, not that far away. It's everybody's just scared to get into it. I feel like a lot of people know about crypto now, like they've heard of it and they're like, oh, Bitcoin, like yeah, but until they know that it's like companies are buying Bitcoin, and like until it's used as like a payment source on a lot of different, like if PayPal starts accepting, like you'd be able to use Bitcoin, if Amazon lets you use Bitcoin, or whatever coin gets adopted, that is when the mass adoption will happen, because then you will have more reason to own those coins. You know what I mean? It's like if you can't go on like right now and buy a lot of things with Bitcoin, like what's the point of holding Bitcoin as something else other than a store of value? Because like it's basically just digital gold, but you don't necessarily use gold to buy things. You just use it to store the value of your money. You know what I mean? Mm. Not a lot of people use gold, like will take gold as a payment source. You know what I mean? It's like buying a house. It's like you're putting your money into the house, and the house is holding and growing in value itself. You know what I mean?
Which is why they called Bitcoin sometimes like digital property.
Yes.
Of some sort.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you like a Bitcoin maximalist in the sense of, because like you're saying how you're in the short term investing in Cardano, Ethereum, because they have higher price movements and you'll get more gain, which I agree. I've been like studying the markets with this too, and it's like 4 to 5x higher than Bitcoin trends. But eventually you're going to move your coins over to Bitcoin.
Yes.
So do you think that
at least a lot of them,
eventually when it gets like fully established, that most of these currencies, cryptos, is going to get kind of like eaten up by Bitcoin?
Well, it all depends on use cases. Really, Bitcoin's not really developed. Like you can't have an NFT on the Bitcoin blockchain. You can't do a lot of the things you can do on Cardano or Ethereum. So they're kind of like racing with each other. And I don't think one will necessarily be the most like adopted in a way. Like I think there will be multiple that are used depending on what you want to do with them. So like Bitcoin basically was the first ever. It started the whole shooting match. So like that's why its value is so high right now. But the Ethereum is technically more valuable in the way it's used, and like you're able to make NFTs and all this. And I think Cardano will be able to do that even more. So they're kind of just building on top of each other.
You don't think that it's like a winner takes all market?
I don't. Okay. I don't think that one will necessarily own the entire like market.
It's not gonna be like Google or Amazon or Facebook. I mean, there'll probably be big players.
There are big players. Like those are the big players. Like
and they can coexist.
And they can coexist. You know, like Facebook might have been like the first huge social media, but it's definitely not now. You know what I mean? Like Twitter and then Instagram came out, and like you have like now TikTok. So like TikTok's like huge right now. Like TikTok is like what I think Cardano is a few years ago. So like TikTok was nothing like a few years ago.
Okay.
And so is Cardano right now. It's like technically not in like usable. But when TikTok came out, it's now basically the number one social media that everybody uses. And it's all about use case, and like so like it's not like Facebook went away. It's just that the use cases and like what people find value in using that app has switched. So now TikTok is on top and Facebook's kind of at the bottom.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily think that one will rule forever.
And you think there's enough network adoption with Ethereum and Cardano that they'll be able to maintain their established system? Because a lot of people are saying like, oh, Ethereum was second in creation to Bitcoin. That all like in the whole early 2000s with the digital age and the internet coming to be, that like all the early companies ended up collapsing and going to zero. Like, do you think the same kind of theme is going to happen with crypto, where these early companies,
it could definitely happen. Like, there's nothing to say that Ether will be around 10 years from now or Bitcoin will be. Like, if people start thinking Ethereum's better than Bitcoin, they'll move out of Bitcoin. Bitcoin's price will drop. And if more and more people stop using it as a store of value, it will stop being a store of value. You know what I mean? So, like, yeah.
Do you think Bitcoin, from your personal perspective, that'll last? Or, like, like the test of time? The next, like, 50, 100 years that we'll still have a Bitcoin and Ethereum?
Yeah. I honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
I think so. Because Bitcoin was the first. That there was, so it's got first player movement, you know. So it could be around for forever, but it really comes down to what one everybody starts to use the most.
I think it's ultimately like what we were saying in the beginning of like the grand vision of all this. I think it's whatever crypto is going to get integrated into some VR digital world.
Yeah.
Where it's actually usable and where we're actually getting money, like making, I don't know, questing and going on adventures and stuff. And the MMORPGs that are soon to be. Okay. Are you familiar with Polkadot at all?
I looked it up a little bit. I have not been that knowledgeable on it. I know that it's like a layer 2 solution.
Layer 3. If you're considering that like Bitcoin's layer 1, Ethereum's layer 2, and then Cardano's like layer 2.53 because it's like its own separate thing, and then Polkadot being the layer 3. So just to give you some background in it, are you like interoperability? What that means is like it's trying to find a way to connect all of these different crypto ecosystems as one like decentralized system. And so Polkadot's mission is trying to like create an open source platform of sort where like Ethereum, all these different protocols can go to Polkadot and then communicate with each other. So in this like metaverse kind of way. So it's maybe not necessarily has to be like a Facebook, like a centralized organization to be able to like bring all these things together, but it's instead maybe another decentralized layer that can do this.
That's interesting. Yeah, I haven't really looked into that as much. I should definitely do
so that. Like, yeah, the big players right now is Polkadot and Cosmos. Polkadot having more security, Cosmos having more the quote unquote interoperability. Cosmos being more like open source to allow more of this like freedom of experimentation to happen, sort of like what Ethereum does, where it's like anyone and everyone can just like go on and just start building stuff. But Polkadot has more structure to it with like Gavin Wood. He was the co-founder of Ethereum when it first came out, but he's the guy that's like running the show, and he's directing this to go where it's going to go. But because it's more of like a organized system in that sense, it has more possibility to have more security once it starts getting like rolled out to being used. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's going to be the next big play. How we had like the huge Cardano run up. I think Polkadot and Cosmos is going to be the next run up.
Okay.
Because it's something that the crypto space really needs. It's not necessarily something that's like an Ethereum backed token that's just like some extra thing to like add to the system. But like we really, as far as like solving problems goes, I think we really need to find a way to create more interoperability.
I agree. Yeah, that is probably one of the biggest things that's going into each coin in development right now is like how they can all like work together in a way. So, yeah, I'll have to look into that a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know much about it.
And like you were mentioning earlier that you think Facebook will end up finding a way to take control over this like crypto space.
I think they'll take control of the metaverse.
So yeah, could you expand on that a little bit?
So if they own the land, like let's say in New York City, if you owned
like the physical land,
if you own the physical land, then whoever wants to build a building on top of your land has to pay money, and like probably a lot of money, or like whatever they do on there, they have to go through you first because you own the land that they're building on top of. And so essentially Facebook will own the digital land, like the digital entire world that you're playing in,
on the outside.
On the outside, they'll own that in a way, and whatever games or whatever stuff is built on top of that, they will basically have direct control of. Because
so if they're like,
oh,
sorry, we're gonna move this set of computers to a different location, or like we're shutting you down.
Yeah, they could basically just shut you down.
Okay.
Like I'm not sure,
because they're gonna own the hardware that powers the VR.
Yeah.
Like with Oculus.
Yeah. They're building the world itself. So like when you put on the VR headset and you see me, they're building the code that allows you to see me and me to see you in the same world. So it's pretty interesting to think of, but in Ready Player One, the bad guys, they wanted control of the world. The dude who built, I remember they're all like trying to figure out this dude's like secrets and whatever, because he built the whole thing. So he had all the access to it, and the evil guys wanted it. They wanted to be Facebook and own everything. But they ended up not being able to do that because the guy who originally made it so that they couldn't. I forget the exact plot, but that's essentially, so as long as Facebook keeps developing the metaverse and there's no other real competition, they will essentially own and have a monopoly within the metaverse, if that makes sense.
Which is going to put even more pressure, not pressure, but like more emphasis on the need for decentralized systems.
Yeah, decentralized
because
systems.
As Facebook grows in more power, we're going to need these cryptos to be kind of like a safe haven to like balance out the centralized force of all these like big tech companies.
Yeah.
That's the kind of like the way I see it.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to see it.
Because like the more NFTs grow in the community, like the more people are going to have the actual like data ownership over these digital assets. So like even if Facebook comes around and tries to like take control, like we'll still at least have like the software, like the digital assets to our ownership, as long as we have like these seed phrases or like these like private keys that associate with our avatar. So like let's say Facebook tries to clamp down and like shut down Oculus. Yeah, they might do that, but like some other company might take over and create like create VR hardware that we can now have access to and still access the digital world and like use our seed phrase or our avatar code to be able to access.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. That is essentially what's going on, or what will go on.
And then I think it's going to be increasingly more important as artificial intelligence comes out.
Yeah.
Because that's essentially like having some super intelligent computer be able to like outsmart us.
Yeah. And all of the data that these like that Instagram and like Facebook and like VR headsets, they're collecting like data to help develop the software itself. So like,
or AI. Or the AI that'll eventually destroy us.
We're feeding the data of us into the AI. The AI is compiling it and fucking making sense of it. So like these things can basically read emotions or like eye movements and like make assumptions. Like if like if you were scrolling on your phone and you saw an ad and like your phone front camera is watching you, like you know that it's real because like the face unlock thing, like your face can literally unlock your phone. So what else can they do with that? You know, not a lot of people think of that. They can literally track your eye movements on your phone. So if they show you an ad when you scroll up and it's an ad that excites you and your pupils dilate a little bit, now the thing knows, oh, he gets an emotional response from this kind of ad. I'm going to show him more ads so I can potentially sell him more things. So I can sell that data to other companies that will sell him the ad too.
That's fucked.
So, yeah, that's how data collection goes. And that's why you hear so much stuff about, like, people own it, like, stealing data or, like, not wanting their data to be, like, sent to these companies. It's like people think, like, oh, I don't do anything bad on the internet. Doesn't matter. I don't care if the government's watching me. Like, you should care. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're not doing anything bad or you don't care. It's that they're building systems that are tracking your every movement and building a portfolio on you as a person. So every time you log on to Instagram, every time you log on to Tinder, it knows like, oh, you're horny. Every time you like go to text your family, it knows how you feel when you text your family. Like it's all these things are connected into a giant portfolio that is you. If you've ever seen The Social Experiment, it's that.
And then you don't even own that data.
You don't own that data. They sell that data to companies that then give you ads.
So then they can profit.
Because they know you're going to buy it. They know that you have been researching on the internet this fucking, nice ironing board, And so they'll start showing you ironing boards, all the time because they know that they could potentially get a sale off of you because you're already looking up ironing boards. It's valuable to you. It's not like they're sending you an ad for like a Teletubby. You're not going to buy that. It's like they're using your data to sell you things.
So they
figured
money.
You out more than you know yourself. And that's scary.
Yeah.
That's
scary.
why it's scary for Facebook to own the entire metaverse because they'll be able to have all this data on you, like the eye tracking, like what you do, everything you do in the game, whoever you talk to, everything you do in the game is a piece of data. Just taking one step is a code of data that gets put into a server that an artificial intelligence is using to make decisions on how the game should advance, what people find fun in the game. It's how it develops farther. But they're all like, it also sells your data to other people. So it's like they claim that it's a good thing, but it's not a good thing.
So as we get more evolved in tech innovation, like we're going to start to integrate more with VR. So they're going to be able to take more data points from us.
There'll just be more.
And imagine if we have like a brain chip in our head.
Yeah, Neuralink.
It could literally monitor everything about
your
us.
Thoughts.
Yeah.
It could probably put false thoughts into your brain. It could probably put ads into your dreams. It could probably, give you false memories. If you've seen Black Mirror, there's like certain ones where they like replaced memories. Because they had the chips in there, and they would like
they can erase them.
They can erase memories, put false memories into your brain. If you ever seen Inception, like they can go into a dream and make you think that you're having an original thought in your dream, but really, it's like a lie. And you're not questioning your thoughts or your dreams. Some people are, but you kind of take your thoughts and your dreams kind of as your own ideas. So if they're able to go in and change the thing that makes you form ideas, they can change your opinion on things or change your memories in a way. You know what I mean?
Okay, and so this is like another reason why we should have more decentralized systems in place. So like one thing I've been looking into is it's called storage, STORJ.
Yeah.
And essentially what that's allowing us to do is be on a blockchain with our data so that we have personal data ownership over everything that we are collecting.
Yeah, like your pictures
ourselves.
and your documents.
So like if we have something like that in place, even if a Facebook comes along with an artificial intelligence supercomputer, that we could now have control over whether or not we want to sell that information to them, and we get more profit, more value out of that than just being at the demise of all of this data control that we have no ownership over.
Yeah. Basically, yeah, I have storage. Or at least I started to use it, and like I started putting some stuff on there.
Oh, I didn't know that we could actually use it.
You can actually use it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the cloud. So it's a cloud storage system that it stores your documents onto the blockchain instead of on a server that Google owns, like Google Drive.
Okay.
Like all your documents, when you put your things into Google Drive, Google owns all that. Like they have access to all of that information, can access it whenever they want because you put it into their system. Okay. And it's just on a server in a room somewhere, just waiting. Like they can access it whenever they want.
So do you know where that data gets stored to in storage?
It's stored onto the blockchain.
Oh, so it's a software.
So it validates that you put your document.
Oh, because it's a cloud. Yeah.
It's a cloud.
Yeah.
So it's validating that your stuff is on the blockchain.
So it's probably stored in your computer then.
It's stored on every computer that's used on the blockchain.
Whoa.
So
okay.
that's where the world supercomputer thing comes in. It's like when you put it one place, you put it all places. One thing makes up the one part of the whole. So you're connecting to the whole of the internet when you log onto the internet. You're like a drop of water that gets dropped into the ocean. And so you're now the whole ocean. You have access. you are part of everything. And that's what I meant earlier about the mycelium thing, like how birds move together in like these weird formations, like they're a hive mind. That's essentially what a blockchain is. It's a hive mind where if you connect to the hive mind, you are the whole hive mind. You have all of the information in front of you. So
you're probably a good person to talk to about this. I know that you have some research into spirituality and you watched a lot of different like YouTube videos and done research about this. But do you ever consider the idea that like we're already living in a virtual reality of sorts?
Yeah. All the time.
Okay. Okay. So like let's say we're in a virtual reality right now, trying to create another virtual reality of sorts. And have you studied like enlightenment kind of stuff, like meditation practice?
Yeah.
But like one theory I had was, so like we're in a virtual reality right now, trying to create a virtual reality of like this Decentraland type thing. But then meditation allows us to sort of get out of this current virtual reality into some other
virtual reality.
Yeah, other thing that like when we, I don't know, use mushrooms or like psychedelics and like, or like reach enlightenment, that we're able like somehow get out of this simulation that we're in, of so to speak. Have you gotten any information about that?
I'm not sure what is outside of the simulation, if there is one, but I think that like
what have you learned about this through your like whole journey? I don't want to like try to pigeonhole you into like my theory, but like what's your take on this whole thing?
I think that it's really weird. I think that we could be in a video game, like we were born and we're all of a sudden just like here. You know what I mean? Like there millions of years passed throughout the universe, and then before us, and it will happen again after us. And it's like, where do we go when we dream? Like, where were we before we were born? Like, those are the kind of things I like to think of. And it's like, what was that place? Where do you go when you dream? Like, is that a simulation in itself? Like, is your brain just creating a matrix? Like, your brain is basically the matrix. It's binding you to this reality, but there are other realities all around us, I think. And I think that we have access to them. And I think the meditative state and like DMT and like psychedelics, they just are able to help you replace one reality with another reality. Because I truly think that we live in like a fractal, like an infinite object that as you move from the outer, when you look at the universe, you see how it looks like on like the inside of a brain, like neurons in your brain. And like as you move into the neurons and you get smaller and smaller, it looks like a universe again. So it's like you're moving in, and like there's
like more things being expanded.
It's the same
outward.
image. As you zoom in, it goes on infinitely, and like the same image just keeps getting replaced and recycled. So like the macro becomes the micro, and the micro goes back out to the micro. So it's a giant loop, and it's infinite, and all potential realities are within that. And I think that
one reality, like the reality becomes the infinite reality, and it's like singular infinite, singular infinite.
Because if there's like one reality, then that means that there's infinite realities.
Whoa, okay.
Because like the whole thing with infinity is like
it's everything.
To have
everything,
one thing,
you need to have one.
You need to have everything at the same time.
Yeah.
Like for you to experience life, there has to be death. It's called duality.
Yeah.
And
it's like value props where it's like if you value something else, there's always that negative to it, because you wouldn't value that one thing if there wasn't a bad thing you're trying to run from.
Exactly. And so where we are right now, I think this is nothing. Like what you see around you is nothing. But to have this right here, like to have everything that we see, there also has to be nothing at the same time. So
because we see everything right now.
Because we see everything. Like
so so like conceptually speaking, like because we see everything, because there's that word everything, we're comparing it to the idea that there's nothing at the same time.
Yeah. So essentially, and like it gets pretty deep, but like imagine like you're in a black hole and there's like absolutely nothing. Like the blackest black. There's no you, there's no anything. That is what this is.
How do you
at the same time that because we are experiencing this right now, that literally means that there is nothing. Because you can't have this.
We can't have everything if there isn't nothing.
Yes.
So
it's duality. It's yin and yang.
Yeah, right. There's always an opposite to whatever there is of something.
Yeah.
So like
to have
the black and white, and the everything in between that.
Yeah.
So the infinite and nothing and everything in between that.
Yeah.
Happening at the same exact time.
The same time.
So what is absolute nothing then, if this is considered everything?
That is a great idea. I mean, like, what is nothing?
So do you think that's what like reaching enlightenment is, when we can have access over the nothing?
Yeah, well, I think enlightenment is, and like it gets pretty deep, but I think enlightenment is literally just realizing that you are God. But when I say God, I mean like you are the thing encompassing everything that you see. It's everything and nothing. Like you realize that you are every bird, every piece of grass, every physical thing that you see around you that you've seen your entire life. It's a part of you. You're connected to it, like the internet. Like you are part of it, so you are it. You are the whole thing. It's Alan Watts said, "We are just the universe experiencing itself." So we are just us. We are moving through this video game that we created. I think God is basically the creator of this world, this video game, and God is all there is. I think God is just one person, and God is basically just like alone. And God stepped into his own video game to experience his work, to experience himself.
And we're all parts of God's like video game. So
we're all one entity.
So sort of like the analogy of dropping a piece of water into an ocean.
Yeah.
How you're that droplet and the ocean.
Yeah, you're the droplet until you hit the ocean. But then once you hit the ocean, you've merged with the entirety of the ocean. So you essentially are the ocean.
So maybe enlightenment is going from that droplet to merging with the ocean.
Yeah.
How like right now with my ego, I am a droplet that is separate from the ocean.
You think you're separate.
but until I let go of my ego, that's when I merge with everything.
You realize you are everything.
And
I think that's enlightenment.
Ooh, and to piggyback on to this with like more of the tech innovation stuff. So like considering the idea that maybe there's like some supercomputer that's controlling everything, that's considered like God analogously, and how like we're all like routers, so to speak, like tapping into that supercomputer frequency, and that's like creating the ego, that we're like this like single being. Me, like my own self, is like a router that's tapping into that, and how like you have your own separate router, but then when we like let go of that, we have access to like the entire frequency of like the universe, so to speak.
Yeah, it's like a radio transmission, like
transmitter. That's probably a better word, not
like
router.
when you listen to the radio, like the radio signals are there at all times, but it's not until your car radio antenna tunes into it, that's when you become a part of that frequency.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think consciousness is like a radio.
Yeah.
And we're tuning into this reality right now. But
there's multiple infinite realities.
Infinite amount of realities. There's an infinite amount of views that have made every decision that you've ever made. The opposite decision happens. Like think of it that way. Like don't think like if I only asked that girl out, it did happen in a reality. It did happen, and it branched off. Like the reality
with the indecision.
It branched off. So you have already done it in a way, but you are also here. And this is the reality where you experience this. And then so all realities are branching off, and they all exist. And I think that's what they think about when they say the bubble universe, or like the what do they call it? It's like
is that the cat, the Schrodinger, like in Rick and Morty with the Schrodinger cat?
No,
like
but
the indecision like creates a new split reality.
Yes, that. But also like the micro or the. I forget what they call it, but in Rick and Morty, like, you know how they have all the different Ricks and Mortys?
Oh,
that's what I mean. Like, all the different worlds where all these different Ricks exist and all these different Mortys exist. Those are all the potential realities, and that goes on infinitely. And then within that, you have what you just said.
So why is it that, like, me, that I know of at this point, like, the only thing I can experience is this current reality in this life? Because, like, even in... I don't know for sure that there was the 1900s before that to the BC era. Like that could all just be like some narrative that was told to all of us, and we're just believing that. But like, why is it that if there was past time before this current reality in history, why is it that I wasn't like an Incan in like the ancient times, or like a Roman in like the Renaissance era? Like we probably were, but like this single point of time, the only thing I'm experiencing is the here and now, the presence, the present moment, so to speak. So like another theory that I had considered was that maybe this is like, if reincarnation is a real thing and I was past lives and I'm getting recycled and now it's to this point in 2021, that this is a pivotal time in human evolution where we are going to experience the possibility that we merge with this universal consciousness of sort. And then that's why like this moment is like the pivotal moment that I need to experience, that all of us need to experience, because like, doesn't it make sense that this is like the last line in the road to like merging of some sort? That like that's why like I'm not experienced, or I can't have consciousness over the other experiences that the other lifetimes that I've lived to get to this point. Yeah.
See, I kind of think of that, and I like going back to what I was saying about like you realizing that you are God, quote unquote, or like the entirety of the universe. I think that we have lived all these past lives, and God is just relived these lives to experience itself in different ways. And this is the way you are experiencing it from your perspective now. And everybody is basically like the same thing, collecting experiences at the same time in different places. And I think that...
And the only thing that we think that makes us separate is the ego. So it's like
ego.
You have your own individual experience, I have my own. But like if we're saying we're connected in some way, it's like no, the entire universe is collecting experiences that were shared or something.
So we're sending data of experience to the cloud of the entirety of us, of that one being.
And we're all just individual transmitters, like picking up information to power some higher being. So
and I think that the reason why you forget about these past lives is so that you can develop the ego and realize that I literally think the whole reason for enlightenment is to realize that you are God. That you are the entirety of the universe.
Or you're a part of the whole.
You're a part of the whole. I think like the whole point of us forgetting is to realize that we are it again.
Makes sense.
Like,
do you think that that happens when we die?
Yeah.
Like that is a form of enlightenment, death, because we're like letting go of the ego and like merging with
back into the whole.
Yeah, the universal consciousness or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Just so we're like more accurate with the word choice.
What, merging?
Yeah, like Buddhists, I think they call it universal consciousness. Or like there's other words that people use though. The universe, like
God, the universe. There's what's the other?
The metaverse.
The metaverse, like the fabric of space and time.
Okay.
You know, like
they're all the same thing.
They're all the same thing.
Okay.
Like the universe is what we say when we are just talking about all of the space encompassing everything that we see, all the planets. When you zoom all the way out in space, and you like they've reached the point where they've zoomed out max, and all of like light that we see, like the Big Bang, like where the Big Bang ends, they have now assumed that where that endpoint is, there's also like 45 trillion light years past that. So it probably keeps going forever, and it probably zooms all the way out until you get probably a skin cell on a human, and then that zooms out. Like if you ever seen Men in Black, they like zoom out and they're like in this guy's locker. And like that zooms out, and that's in this alien world, but that alien world's probably zoomed out within a giant universe, and that giant universe is probably the smallest speck on some other giant universe, which is also the smallest speck on some other. So it's infinite. It's a fractal. It keeps going in and in and in and in and in forever.
Now I get it. Like how you were saying we're everything and nothing at the same time. Because like I wasn't thinking that big picture, but like if you zoom out of Earth and you keep zooming, Earth starts to get smaller and smaller until it's just blackness.
Yeah.
And then like the same thing like is happening as you like expand outward of the Big Bang, whatever, that like territory, that like you start to see planets, and that becomes like everything. And maybe you travel to that planet, and that like comes into your perception to like now see everything in that world. But then you can zoom out and it's just blackness again.
Yeah.
So it's like, everything and nothing at the same time.
And then you might zoom out and you might get a smaller version of the Earth again. It's like, that's kind of like why fractals are very interesting. But yeah, those are just things I think of when I think of like, what is this reality that we're in? Like, what is like a mushroom trip? You know, like, can we say that that's not more real than what we call reality or baseline consciousness? And how, like, who's to say that when you're dreaming, that's not reality? Like, every time you are in a dream, weird things happen and you don't question it at all. Like you step into a dream and you're flying a car, or like, you know, you're jumping off of a building and flying. In the moment, it's like, yeah, like this makes sense. You don't question it at all. It's not until you wake up after that you realize like that was weird, like this was a dream. While it's happening to you, it feels real. It's just as real as anything else that you've ever experienced. So what really is real then?
So maybe I have a theory that maybe the reason why we think this is reality is because we're like chained to biology, that there's this scarcity to life in this reality that we want to hold on to because the fear that we have of biology, really, like if we lose this life, that there's nothing else out there or something like that. But in dreams, like the concept of biology, at least for me in those experiences, I don't dream a lot really, but like it's more like a conception. It's not like I don't know how to explain it. Like there's something to biology where it like makes us think that this life is more valuable than other perspectives that we experience, if it's like through a dream or like through a VR headset or some sort. So it's that like duality again, that like we value this life specifically because we fear the loss of life at the same time.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I could sing
because of biology again.
Yeah,
and pain. Like, yeah, we value life because we actually feel pain in this life at the same time. And it's like that spectrum of like the very worst and the very good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, none of those things would exist if it wasn't for duality, though. Like, we're alive because death is a thing. You know what I mean? Like, if everybody lived forever, there would be no point to life. And that's kind of why I like, there's like this nihilistic view of the world. It's like, you just live to die. And if that's like your worldview, like why doesn't everybody just kind of kill themselves, you know, from day one? Like, what is the point? Like, really, what would the point be if we're all just going to die and then like you just get put in the ground and that's it? Like, is that really like the worldview you want to live through? Like, no, the whole reason for life is to live. You know, it's because we're able to live and
it's experience,
die. It's
right?
Experience, like,
or the whole point of living might be to experience everything.
Yeah.
Right. The good and the bad.
The good and the bad. It's like you need to have both of them to experience it at all.
Right.
Like, we literally wouldn't be alive if the ability for death wasn't a thing as well. So that's why there's something here rather than nothing here. Because for there to be something, there has to be nothing.
But we're always seeing something.
But since we're always seeing
at least
something
in this reality.
That also means that there's absolutely nothing.
So it kind of makes me think that like the universal consciousness or universe is like trying to guide us towards evolution. If we're in this reality seeing something at all times, unless you're sleeping and there's like total blackness. But like, yeah, because there's the possibility of the duality of like nothingness and everything, and in this current reality of Earth and the here and now, what we're experiencing everything, like plants, like wall and like human beings and stuff like that, that like the universal force, I think, is trying to guide us into this evolution of progression towards like creating more of everything.
Yeah, I can see that.
We kind of are like cogs in this whole system, though.
Yeah.
At least on the individual level, like working with the universal force towards progression of, I don't know, whatever this next iteration of reality is going to be.
I agree. I don't know if you saw that episode of Rick and Morty where they had the, I think they called it the Hive or something like that. It was like where Rick was like having sex with all of like the town people, and like all the town people were like controlled by that one entity. It's like they all were like working together as a hive mind for the whole, but it was really just like each of those people that were acting as, they're basically just like robots or like harvests or like, I forget.
For the grand scheme of the
they're
project.
Just like, they're husks that the consciousness of that being can then input itself into. So it's like we're radios,
sort of like
and we're tuning into consciousness.
Oh, I was thinking sort of like how Rick, he uses universe or like worlds to power his car.
Yeah.
Everything is just to be used for something else, so to speak.
Yeah, and it could keep going like that whole like universe within a universe thing is most likely correct. Like, why do we keep building these like VR worlds, and like within a VR world there'll probably be a VR world. Right. And within that VR world it'll go infinitely. Because like I think it's just natural for us to like develop these fractal like things where if you keep zooming out, it's the same situation happening infinitely. And I like there's just something to that, like infinity, like we can't really imagine what infinity is. We just imagine that it just doesn't end. But if you zoomed out and like you saw our universe, but there's copies of all of our universes next to each other, I forget. I think they call it the bubble universe or something, the Suds theory or something like that. It's just like all of these universes exist, so
other universes can be built within it.
Yes, and I think as we keep zooming out, we get the same universe that built ours. And we keep zooming out and like who built theirs.
Are you saying the same as in like you think this Earth that we're living in right now, there's like an exact replica of this somewhere else?
I think there's an infinite amount of views right now, like a mirror facing a mirror. Like when you put a mirror next to a mirror, it goes in. It's infinite. Like you just can't see how small it gets, but it's forever. It never ends. So I think right now that's happening. Like there's millions of views and me's talking right now, and they're literally doing the exact same thing, but each one is making different choices or saying different things that lead to different and all potential possibilities. And I think all worlds are doing that. All like it's all happening at the same time, infinite amount of times, and you just can't recognize it. Like your brain physically can't do that
because we're just chained to this reality.
Because we're in this ego. Reality. Yeah, because our brains are like we can't see gamma rays or infrared. You know, like we're only seeing one small part of the electromagnetic spectrum. So
and we're limited by our biology of having eyes. Like why couldn't we have grown different organs to have other sensory perceptions?
Yeah. Why haven't we evolved to
see gamma rays?
Yeah, like I'm surprised we aren't just brains yet.
And why is it that we only have 5 senses? Like the sense of intuition, maybe in other realities, like people are able to predict where like the crypto market's gonna go and stuff.
Yeah, well, there's definitely potential realities where the worlds were built differently. Like there's alien versions of us where, you know, maybe we don't breathe air, we breathe methane. You know what I mean? And that would change everything. We'd be like fucking crocodile monsters, you know, or something like that. So like all potential realities of all potential worlds, I think exist right now in this moment. We just don't have direct access to it. But you probably could, and I think that's what meditation is. Is disconnecting from this reality and kind of getting in tune with all of everything and being okay with that and just like sitting with it and being.
It's like teleportation almost.
In a way, yeah.
Makes me want to meditate more.
Yeah, I definitely don't meditate enough. I need to. Like, I have ADD, and like, I sit down and like I try to like just like relax because I like clench my jaw a lot and like my face is always just like scrunched and like tense. Like I try to just sit and like relax, but like when I meditate, it's not. I don't think it's meditating. Like I don't go into like a trip. I'm just like relaxing and trying to like hear. Like I've heard that how you meditate is to just like listen to every sound that you hear until you're not really hearing it anymore. Kind of like how if you say tree a million times, the meaning of tree means nothing to you anymore. Like tree is just tree, like tree. What's a tree? Tree, like we just call a tree because it's what we call a tree. So,
and that actually could be a metaphor to like how we're saying enlightenment is nothing, because like I think there's something to like having an ego where we think this life right now is meaningful, but then when you let go of that ego, then you start to realize that things are more meaningless because there's like infinite possibilities of everything.
Yeah.
And so like when we're saying doing that exercise of like, oh, tree, at first our ego's like latching onto tree, the word, and it's like, oh, that's meaning, it has like values to it and like attributes. But then like over time, as you say it enough, right, it goes to being meaningless.
Yeah, like you.
Same thing with like the meditation practice of like, okay, I'm experiencing this, I'm closing my eyes, so there's one degradation of meaning. I'm not seeing something. And then now my thoughts are happening, and I let go of those, and that gets rid of the sound and the noise in my head.
Yeah.
And it's like little leveling down, like degradations of perceptions that we have till we get to the point of meaninglessness or nothingness.
And that is just being in a complete state of being. Like you're no longer thinking in your head. You're no longer listening to the thoughts and associating the sound of a bird like, oh, that's a bird. Like you from birth, like you've been like in a way brainwashed. Like you're told a tree is a tree, and forever you don't see it as a tree, or like you don't like before you knew a tree and like you were told and it was labeled as a tree, it was this magical thing that grew out of the earth, and you're like, whoa, what the hell is that? But then somebody said, oh, that's a tree. And so forever in your head now, you associate that with just being a tree. It's no longer that magical thing anymore that just was something. You know, we've limited it to just being a tree, and it will always just be a tree in your head. So that's essentially what I think meditation is. It's like removing the like what we place meaning on, and it's like you just listen and you don't hear anything. Like you're letting the sounds just happen. You're letting your thoughts just happen, and you're letting your breath just happen, and all those things come together into one singularity. And I think that is like being in the moment, or like being. I think that's what the meditative state is. Is like you're just being in a complete state, connecting with everything.
And I even think maybe so like being present, like we try to like pick up on the bird noise or the wind blowing or like what I'm seeing right now. That might even be like the sensory perceptions of our biology might be distractions from what actually means to be present, which is like something outside of this reality.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, this is all speculation. I mean, like, I don't know any of this for sure. But it's definitely feels...
There's something there
definitely
to it.
What we're told about reality, and like we just are apes that grew up, you know, and evolved, and like we're born to die. I don't think that narrative, and like science basically tells us like this is how things are, but who's to say that science is the absolute way to know what truth is? How do we define what truth really is? How do
it's
we
all
know
in our framework of...
How do we know that meditation isn't the way to find absolute truth of something? Like, what is truth with a capital T? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like we've all just like kind of like whatever science comes out with, we just kind of take that for fact, and we just believe what they've said because they quote unquote have proven it. But who's to say that you can't prove it in other ways?
And we're too stupid to get to that point of knowing what consciousness is at this point.
Yeah.
So that's like, to tie this back into technology, what we're advancing towards in potentially our generation is the scientific provability, if that's even a word, of like understanding what consciousness is through like things like Neuralink or VR, and like potentially being able to prove this idea of like us being able to experience other realities.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that could give that could lend itself to the possibility of like all these theories that we're talking about, that we're coming from other realities, that we're creating new by the act of creation of new realities, then it gives rise to the possibility that we've come from other realities as well.
Yeah. Because that would mean that there's an infinite amount of those different realities.
And if we can create Neuralink that's able to tap into this like universal intelligence, so to speak, and maybe I'm going to be able to access your memories, that gives rise to, again, like the proving of the spiritual theories.
I agree. But there's always going to be downsides with those kind of things like Neuralink, because like evil, like if there's a way to use it for evil, like the ego mind, if there's a way to use it to manipulate, it will happen. So like,
and that's why decentralization is more important.
Yeah.
Increasingly more important.
Because like, you want to own your data, basically. You want to own the right to have those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was a good place to end.
I think that's it. Well, sure.
Cool. We yeah.
We did it.
We figured out the universe.
We figured out the universe
yeah.
and cryptos. Let's do it. Well, thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Thanks, Dirk.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's been real. Okay.
Nice. Tell me it was recording.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Thanks again for tuning in to Bindlism, a philosophy to self-sufficient lifestyle. Be sure to explore other episodes of Bindlism on our Spotify and Apple podcast. You can find more Boho Hobo stuff on Instagram and Twitter at boho_hobo_, as well as on our Facebook page at Boho Hobo Lifestyle. It'd also be dope if you could subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Our YouTube channel has more episodes from Bindlism in video form, along with other random shenanigans that we're up to. We're constantly filming new experiences, so it's one way you guys can stay up to date with us in our journey. So yeah, I guess that's it for now. Until next time, peace.